All right, so now we're ready to try the derivation of the derivative of cosine. And it's going to look a lot like the derivation of the derivative of sine, except we're going to use a different identity this time. So the cosine of a sum is cosine of the first angle times cosine of the second angle minus sine of the first angle times sine of the second angle. And again, you don't need to memorize that. This will be the only time we actually use that this year. And I also want to remind you, since we proved it graphically in the sine derivation, that these two limits are a thing. Limit as x approaches 0 of sine of x over x is 1, and the limit as x approaches 0 of 1 minus cosine x over x is 0. So the derivation is going to look really familiar when we get started with it. So we want to find the derivative of cosine. We're going to start by using the h definition. There it is. And then we're going to break this apart using this identity. And that would look like this. Just like we did in the first derivation, we're going to take this last term here and this first term here because they have a common factor, and we're going to move them next to each other and then pull out that common factor. And that would look like this. And then we're going to take the stuff that has x's in it and the stuff that has h's in it and break it apart. So when we do that, that's going to look like this. Notice the cosine x is here. The h stuff that's here is in its own fraction. The sine of x is here, and the sine of x over h is in its own fraction. Now I'm ready to take the limit as h approaches 0. So as h approaches 0, cosine x is cosine x, no h in it. As h approaches 0, the cosine of h minus 1 over h, that's this limit. Now granted, these things are in opposite order than this. So normally that would be the negative of that limit value because the signs are switched, but it's 0 anyway, so you could say this is negative 0, but it's still 0, right? Sine of x, as h goes to 0, sine of x, there's no h in it. And then this sine of h over h is like this limit, which is 1. So when I look at those, I get cosine of x times 0, or negative 0, minus sine of x times 1, so the derivative of cosine is negative sine.